All right, let's talk about chart of accounts inside of QuickBooks because I think it's one of the things that I see the most that people don't really set up correctly and accurately. And as a result, they miss a lot of the value that could be provided by their reports and financial statements, such as their profit and loss statement and balance sheet, because they're not taking the time to properly set up the chart of accounts. Now, QuickBooks Online tries to do a good job at creating and giving you a default template based on the industry that you pick when you're setting up your chart of accounts or you're setting up your QuickBooks account. And I often find that for a lot of industries, especially in the real estate industry, as a real estate agent, it really misses the mark on the type of chart of accounts or expenses and stuff that you really want to keep track of, and even your income. Now, before I dive into setting up or what I recommend, I think it is beneficial to kind of go over the concept of what is the chart of accounts and to sort of understand it. And I look at it like very similar to a warehouse. Now, in a warehouse, you have all of these shelves, and each of these shelves, right, is going to have kind of bins associated with them. And so, what we're going to do here is we're just going to simply say that, for example, this shelf, this lower shelf maybe represents our our expenses, right? And each of those in each of that shelf, we're going to kind of have these bins or these sections, and that's what you might categorize as our our chart of accounts or a certain expense account. So, for example, let's just say we have a shelf here and we draw one little bin, and that bin is going to represent expenses associated with marketing. And then we have another one, and we're going to say that's going to handle expenses associated with dues from the National Association of Realtors or other membership dues that we might have to pay. And let's say the other one's going to represent office supplies. And so when an expense comes in from our bank account, so we have this money expense, and it comes into, let's say, our QuickBooks. And essentially what we want to do is we want to take that transaction and put it in the associated bin that it belongs in. And so we're going to do our best job to make sure that really at the end of the day our bins are set up properly. And so let's say we bought some paper clips. In this case, we're going to throw it into our office supplies bin because we're just going to organize it. And so that's really how I want you to think about it and conceptualize it in your head, is to just think about, like, imagine you were working in a warehouse and you had to organize, a million different screws and a million different, nuts or bolts, right? You would probably organize them by, for example, width or length of, the screw, or maybe the width of the nut, that it goes on, whether it's like 5/8, 1/2, 3/4, etc. And so it's kind of the same concept that we're trying to do, is we're creating this chart of accounts that allows us to most accurately describe and categorize our transactions. And now there are some, generally accepted accounting principles, but the basis for, how you're creating your chart of accounts is going to be based on, one is going to be taxes, and the second is going to be, your reports, so that when we produce our profit and loss statement and those kinds of things, we can get value from it. I mean, obviously, if you're a large corporation, you're doing it for internal or external, generally external investors that may be looking at your financial statements. And so there's a couple ways that you can sort of update your chart of accounts. Obviously, one is just creating the new button, and you can manually add your new chart of accounts there, or a new account or expense account that you might, or an income account. You would just go ahead and enter the name and enter all the information associated with that account, whether it's an expense account, income account, cost of goods account, asset account, liability account, whatever it might be. You can just manually add each one individually. Now, depending on your plan, you do have a limit that QuickBooks has in terms of how many accounts that you can add. I believe I'm on, I forget which plan this is. I think the pro plan, and that's 250, chart different accounts, which is plenty for most people that you would even need. And then if you wanted to just clean up some of your chart of accounts, you can obviously click on these little down arrows, and you can either make inactive, or you can merge some of them if you would like to, and those kinds of things to get rid of some of these accounts that you might want to not have, so that you don't have a long list of chart of accounts. And the reason I recommend removing some of them is so that you don't accidentally miscategorize or increase the rate of error because there's too many chart of accounts. Now, the chart of accounts that I recommend that you set up is, you can import a CSV file or Excel file, which is pretty easy to do. And the one I recommend is this one that I kind of built out for real estate agents, modeled off of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And it's based off of the same kind of accounts that is recommended by Keller Williams, Gary Keller, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And so there's two different kind of chart of accounts that I have. There's a detailed chart of accounts, which is probably going to be for your more sophisticated real estate agents that maybe is running a team, or is doing, maybe say $300,000, $400,000 in GCI, where they want better financial accountability over their numbers. And then the other one is just a simple one, which only has a list of, without as many third or sub accounts and stuff like that. But either way, both of them are definitely beneficial as for creating your chart of accounts. And you'll see that both of them, only really go up to, 40 some, 47, 46 accounts on the detailed. And we're only looking at around 34, 35 charts or accounts for your chart of accounts. For, the simple one, of course, you would have to add in some of your asset liability accounts to that, like such as your bank accounts, or if you have any, debt, maybe on a car loan or credit card or anything like that, that you might also be adding to your QuickBooks. And so what you would simply do, you would just download or create a file like this. Now, QuickBooks does offer a template that you can use and just sort of create your own chart of accounts, and that way you don't have to manually update each single one of them. And that's what this template is, where you just have to include the account name, the type, and then the detail type, and then you can just go ahead and fill out that information and then upload it right into QuickBooks, and then you have your chart of accounts updated for you.